Hello and thanks for joining me for another video. This is a guide for the raid boss Deimos, a demon that has taken Saul Delasio as prisoner and where a successful win will set him free. This guide will tell you all the mechanics you can expect to encounter to help you accomplish this goal and claim your rewards. If you're looking for a raid boss that's not afraid to get a little handsy, look no further. Please note this guide will not discuss raid composition or focus on different strategies that can be employed for a successful kill. The particular strategy you'll see in this guide is called the range strategy and allows for better management of raid mechanics. Deimos is the fourth and final boss in Wing 4, the Bastion of the Penitent. After defeating the preceding boss Samrog, you'll advance into a small chamber and glide over to a platform where the Deimos fight will take place. It is safe to stand on the edge of the platform, but advancing much further towards the center will activate the fight. This fight has both standard and specific roles. You will need a tank, at least one healer, however 2 druids is preferred, 1 hand kiter, and 1 oil kiter, both of which we will talk about later in the video, and the rest of your raid composition made up of DPS, preferably ranged. This fight is broken into 3 phases, all of which advance as objectives are completed. The 3 phases are the pre-fight event, the boss fight itself, and the final phase, which occurs during the last 10% of Deimos' health. We will talk about each of these in detail. If you look at the raid field before you pull, you will note that there are 4 chains holding a shackled prisoner at the center of the platform. The pre-fight event will activate as you move towards the center of the raid field. Doing so will immediately spawn 2 types of mobs, a small human-shaped ghost called greeds, and a larger human-shaped ghost called prides. The objective of this pre-event is to break the chains before the ghosts have a chance to destroy the prisoner. This is accomplished by splitting up the raid into 2 teams, with a small team equipped with motion slowing or stopping crowd controls like druids entangle or chill staying on the upper platform called the ghost team, and the other team taking the portal to the lower level to break the chains themselves called the chain team. The upper team will keep the ghosts from damaging the prisoner, which will happen if the ghosts reach the center of the platform where the prisoner is chained. The smaller greed ghosts do a small amount of damage, and likewise the pride ghosts do a large amount of damage. You can ignore the greed ghosts, which are too numerous to effectively control and are essentially a soft enrage timer. However, only 1 pride ghost will spawn at a time, and since these do the most damage, your focus should be here. Using any type of soft crowd control such as entangle or chill, you will DPS them down as you continue to hinder their movement. Using hard CC abilities like a knockback will cause the pride to run at double speed when it wears off. It is only imperative that the pride never reaches the center, so while killing them seems an appropriate strategy, it is only really necessary to ensure that it does not make it to the center while the other team is destroying the chains. If it gets too close, you can kill it and another will spawn in its place near the edge of the platform. Start the process of crowd control over and repeat this until the chain team has done their job. The job of the chain team is to break the chains called demonic bonds in the lower level of the raid field, which will remove the corresponding chains on the upper level. The lower level is accessed via a portal which spawns as a green circle on random members of the raid. Those that are part of the chain team will stand in the green circle and will port down with the selected member. This area looks similar to the upper raid field but is darker by comparison. A dark form of Deimos will stand in the middle and will not move from this spot. Deimos will randomly target a raid member on the lower level and attempt to throw them off in the platform by using a casting knockback ability. This attack comes in the form of a cone-shaped area of effect that the targeted player and anyone else who is standing in it must dodge or move out of. Failure to do so will result in being knocked off the platform and instantly dying. Once any of those 4 chains are broken, the entire team will be ported back to the top and the process will repeat with yet another raid member being selected with the green portal circle, and the chain team will need to stand in it again for the opportunity to destroy another chain. All 4 chains can be destroyed at once if you coordinate with other team members, but if you can't, simply continue this process until all 4 are broken. Any Condi damage players should apply their afflictions to all of the chains. Ideally, you would want to have the chains destroyed within 2 portals. When the chains are broken, the entire raid will be brought back to the upper platform, and Deimos will leap into the center of the raid field along with a friendly NPC named Saul Delasio. The entire raid, except for the hand kiter and the tank, should stack behind the boss with the tank out in front of the team. At this time, the role of the hand kiter comes into play. During the fight, a mechanic called Soul Feast will afflict the furthest person from the boss, and should therefore be on the opposite side of the raid field from the tank. This person will have a DOT condition applied to them that will drop on the ground approximately every 1 second. The area will turn into a pinkish red area with hands that will sprout up from the center. These DOT areas do a large amount of damage per tick, and 3 ticks can easily down a player. Because of this, the Handkiter takes damage throughout the fight, and again will need to be a class with good survivability. The Handkiter cannot stand with the raid, or they will contaminate the raid field with the high damage DOT areas. The Handkiter should remain on the very edge of the raid field and neatly place the DOT areas along the edge. They will continue to do this for the entire fight. It is also important that the Handkiter never drop one of these on the boss, or he will gain a stacking damage buff for each Soul Feast he claims. Additionally, the Handkiter may need supplemental heals from time to time. This needs to be monitored because if the Handkiter goes down, it will more than likely result in a wipe. Within a few seconds of landing, Deimos will cast his primary attack called Annihilate. This is a 360-degree attack that is commonly referred to as the pizza attack due to its design pattern similarity. This attack must be dodged to avoid getting thrown back from the epicenter. If you are too close to the edge of the platform and miss the dodge, you will be thrown off the raid platform and cannot be revived. This attack occurs approximately every 20 to 25 seconds. In between the Annihilate attacks, Deimos will cast Mind Crush, a raid-wide AoE attack. This attack cannot be dodged, but it can be blocked. The friendly NPC Saul will cast a bubble for the raid to stand in when Mind Crush is cast. Anyone outside the bubble, and without another means of blocking the attack, will be downed or possibly killed. This tank and the 2 kiters need a form of block that can be used to endure this attack, since they will be unable to use the bubble. During the fight, white circles will appear on the ground called demonic tears. These tears need to be picked up by walking into them, and this can be done by anyone not tanking or kiting. However, tears do tend to spawn in inconvenient locations, and it may be more appropriate for the Handkiter or tank to pick them up. When you walk into a tear, you will get a green skull over your head, and you will take a small, easily manageable DOT. Once you pick up the tear, you will be barred from getting another one for approximately 1 minute. This means that the raid members must work together to pick them up. Failure to pick up a tear will result in it operating like a turret and will begin shooting at the raid. This is extra damage that is easily avoidable. However, do not risk missing the bubble shield for the sake of getting a tear. Make sure it is safe to move before going to pick it up. At 75%, a new mechanic will be introduced in the form of a green teleport circle, similar to that of the pre-fight event. A random raid member will get the circle applied to them, and with the exception of the tank and any kiters, the entire raid will stand in this circle. The team will be teleported back to the lower platform and will fight the thief version of Saul. Crowd control will need to be used to break his bar so he does not steal buffs from the raid. When Saul is at 50%, the raid will be teleported back to the main platform and Saul will be teleported with you so you can finish killing him. When you arrive back on the platform, the soul feasts that were dropped during the fight by the kiter will now begin to move towards Deimos, and if they pass into you or under you, you will take damage. You will need to dodge them or avoid them to prevent this from happening. Once they get near the boss, they are absorbed, and the raid field will now be clear for the hand kiter to begin dropping again. Continue to damage Saul until he is dead, and then turn your attention back towards the boss. It should be noted that after the raid takes the first portal, the tank should maneuver the boss to the edge of the platform opposite that of the handkiter. This is done for two reasons, the first of which is to give the handkiter the ability to do their job without having to worry about dodging the annihilate attack. Additionally, when the raid returns to the field, it will give them the ability to stand at a range and only have to make minor adjustments to avoid the annihilate attack themselves. When Deimos reaches 60% health, yet another mechanic is introduced in the form of black circles known as oil, and this is where the job of the oil kiter comes into play. These target and afflict the second closest player to the boss, and therefore it is imperative that the oil kiter positions himself between both the tank and the raid. They are indicated by a large orange circle around the targeted player, which does not follow the player if they move. The kiter simply needs to move out of the circle before the DOT is dropped on the ground. Thankfully, there will never be more than two of these up at any given time, so as the third one is spawning, the oldest one will be despawning. This means that managing their placement is not very hard, however these areas have the potential to wipe your raid very quickly. This is because when a player comes in contact with the oil, it will exponentially expand its radius and continue to do so for each player that it comes in contact with. This means in a worst case scenario, the entire raid field will be covered with high damage AoE with nowhere safe to stand. At 50%, another green portal will spawn on a player, and again the tank, the hand kiter, and now the oil kiter will all purposely miss the portal. As with the other two positions, the oil kiter will need some type of block to survive the Mind Crush attack. During this portal phase, you will fight another version of Saul, and shortly after damaging him, he will split into 4 clones. One of the 4 clones will have a slightly different staff than the others, and this is the indication of the target that you need to be attacking. Defeat the clone to cause the real Saul to spawn again. When you damage him to 50%, you and Saul will all be teleported back to the main platform like before. The clone phase will happen again, and like before, you will locate the correct target and destroy it so you can get back to killing Deimos. At around 40%, the final mechanic is introduced. As in the pre-fight event, the Greed and Pride Ghost will spawn and move towards the NPC Saul. As before, your focus should still be on the Pride Ghost since they do the most damage. It has now become a bit of a DPS race, as the Prides will continue to spawn, and they will damage Saul as they continually come in contact with him. You will need to push the boss to 10% to cause a phase change so that the ghosts do not kill him. While it is possible to heal Saul, it is a little bit difficult, and if he dies during the encounter, the raid will fail. Once the boss reaches 10%, the final phase of the encounter takes place, and the entire raid is teleported to the lower level. Essentially, the fight will continue as it did from 100% to 75%, with a few exceptions. Deimos is now standing off the edge of the raid platform and no longer needs to be directly tanked. The tank will now assume the oil kiting role, which will not change in procedure as previously mentioned. The hand kiter will continue to do their job as before, and DPS will damage the boss. You can heal Saul if necessary, but mainly it's required that everyone focus damage on the boss. Tears will still be in play and will need to be handled as before. Do not ignore the tears and continue to work the mechanics. You should have a boss kill within a few minutes.